2, 1.
Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies, the live video podcast for people who love to talk about movies as they love watching them. Now, before we get started, I do want to plug my most recent Hot Mic review, which actually was a little different, a ranking. This is one where I actually went through the Snyderverse filmography as promised, and ranked them all from least. Oh, yikes! Let's try that. Maybe that's a little easier to see me. Where I ranked them from least to most offensive. And so there'll be something in the description, and I will make sure that there's a card, some sort of link there, or maybe at the end of the show, there'll be a way for you to watch. So yeah, check it out when you got the chance. Thanks, everyone. What else do we have to say here? Oh yeah. Second, our good friend and from Dan from the Upside Dan, he shouted Jim and I out the other day. It was part of, let me get my script out of the way. It was part of another channel called GeekyHiJynx Reviews, part of his 100 subscriber channel. Really worked out. And what it was, so Dan shouted us out. Really, and Dan's always been a great friend of the show. So this is just one more opportunity for us to shout him out, mention GeekyHiJynx, which is right over here. But you know what? This kind of thank you stuff, this sort of heavy lifting isn't necessarily for me. So I think it's time to bring on my co-host with the most, Mr. Jim Chleboyko. Also the man that I'm hoping will have my back, will at least have a bullet for my head, and he's a decent shot in the zombie apocalypse. How you doing, man?
Good. I've got, I fueled up the helicopter whilst smoking a cigar, so that's all set to go. I'm observing WHMIS protocols, and, everything's good. Big open cans, big gas tank.
Well, look at Tig Notaro there. This is the kind of woman that you can count on for that sort of thing, right?
I love Tig Notaro. She needs to go to a WHMIS safety training session.
Okay, let's, you know what, again, I think it's an opportunity to thank our good friend, the Upside Dan.
Yeah.
And yes, and this fellow kind of new on the scene, I'd say. GeekyHiJynx Reviews. Let me throw up his channel on the big screen there for us. He it's kind of a zanier sort of thing. I will make sure that I put a link to him in our description, or in the tag him in our the first comment for the show after it goes on full online. But it was funny, Jim. He did kind of a cool thing, I thought, and that was how did he play it here? It was kind of interesting. Everyone who was tagged in his challenge had to talk about the movie they found the first movie that really frightened them, really scared them. And then the other one was the first movie that made them cry, as a kid. And you know what? We don't have to participate in this challenge. That said, I'm now suddenly curious, Jim. What was the first movie that frightened you as a kid? I think I know what it is, but.
Well, there's sort of a, my puzzling answer would be every movie, because when I was young, I had an irrational fear of the man who opened the curtains in the theater. Am not kidding.
Really?
I was we're talking 3 or 4. My mom was big into pop culture, and she loved taking us out to movies and that sort of thing. So as a very small child, I was petrified of,
wow.
Obviously at the time it was mechanical, but I thought that there was some sinister figure who would, like Phantom of the Opera kind of figure. But having said that, the first one that I really remember being sort of petrified and jazzed by, of course, Jaws. They had the network premiere of it on CTV, like the Sunday night CTV movie, which is a big station up here in Canada. And even with commercials, and we had it on every TV in the house, including the kids' black and white TVs in our rooms. And I was just running from room to room because I was so like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I think that was
awesome.
I think that was grade 6 that happened. And it was a big, highly built thing, like the network television premiere,
NBC worldwide event.
What was the log line? What was the catchphrase?
Premiere.
Was the beware of what's in the water, watch out for what's in the water, or whatever it was. And
Be afraid next time in your water, you won't see the water ever again. Or
something like that, yeah.
You know what? Somebody in the chat is already going, oh, you ding-dongs, it's this.
Yeah. So that would probably be the scary one for me. Although it wasn't like that sort of pull the covers up and be frightened, but it was that sort of
it was the first
adrenaline.
one that really viscerally got you.
Yeah.
How
about you?
I'm going to throw that out to the stream or out to the chat as well. Love to hear, even just throw it in. Even if I can only get back to it later and scroll through them. Love to hear what that first movie that frightened everyone else. For me, Jim, and this is a bit of a tale, The Wild Geese of all films.
Oh my gosh.
This was the first where I can really, not only was I frightened, I got a little kind of, I don't feel good. And it was frightening on 2 tiers. For those of you folks who don't know, Wild Geese was late 70s, maybe.
This is the Mercenary movie?
Yeah, Mercenary movie starring a whole bunch of great British actors and Roger Moore.
Oh, come now.
But yes, they're all mercenaries. They go to an undescribed African nation to, take out the current leader and get one imposed. And they're hired by some sleazy British mining interests. In other words, this is the career guidance that Margaret Thatcher's son took. Because decades later, he got caught up in a scam to overthrow an African country's government.
No, one of the Thatchers.
I know.
They're such good faith people.
Anyway, so I wanted to go. My mother said, no way you're going to that. I don't just, like me and Emil Zonneveld, a buddy of mine, we're at the same age, living both in the same apartment block. Screw it, we're going to go and we just won't tell. And I brought my oldest kid brother, David. Now, David is 5 years younger than I am. So if I'm seeing this when I'm 11, he's 6. Even if I saw it when I was 12, he's 7. Mm-hmm. And there's this scene early on, like way early, kind of establishing who these people are, early where Roger Moore comes in, smashes into a hotel room, sees a sleazy guy taking advantage of a woman, getting her high and, cocaine. And so he forces the guy just shoves his face and forces him to breathe in like a bag of cocaine. And then as he's all kind of crazy, just shoots him right in the head. And the movie got more graphic from there. And all I can think of is both. It's like, I don't feel good. My mother might have been right.
Yeah.
And I've got my kid brother. And I'm like, I'm terrified, honestly, not just for what's going to come next, but also it's like, David, you can't tell. Boy, I hope this isn't wrecking you for life. Because he's 7, right? Yeah. So that was there's my first truly terrifying film experience. And it's funny though, viscerally, I can remember these scenes really clearly. And I was like, one of those things where I'm like, yeah, there is something as a film too violent for certain ages.
Yeah. The wisdom of the parents. Yeah. Davey, why do you have such an aversion to geopolitics? Well,
but late 70s, and it's not like we were going to like the Starlight or one of those sleazy, sometimes second-run movies, sometimes porn theater. It was the North Star, like right downtown, a premier screen here in Winnipeg. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a pretty good one. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think we should move on, but maybe we'll save for a later point in the broadcast.
Sure.
We'll save we'll save our that first time we cried, because I
Sure.
might actually remember one. But is that cool with you? If we
Yeah. Oh yeah.
get back to my script. Alrighty. Okay, Jim, I'm gonna just take over the screen for
You
a
bet.
second here and move myself a little off. Alrighty, everybody. Let me make sure I'm looking, or make sure I'm in the right place. All right. Okay, everybody. That's enough of gratitude and memory making. Let's get back to our scheduled programming. Tonight, Jim and I and you folks, the best chat on the internet, we're all gonna be discussing Zack Snyder's zombie action heist flick and a bunch of other genres jammed in there. Army of the Dead, starring Dave Bautista. Of course, it is set in a future, kind of a future arrested zombie apocalypse, for those who remember some of Pierre Elliott Trudeau's greatest quotes. But I do have a couple of clips courtesy of Netflix that'll kind of help set the stage and give you a taste of what's coming.
Every man who saves the Secretary of Defense from a horde of flesh-eating monsters earns the Medal of Freedom, only to end up...
Working at a burger joint. Mr. Tanaka, I'm well aware of my situation.
Here's the thing. There's $200 million in the basement vault beneath the strip. $200 million the insurance company already reimbursed me for. Untaxable, untraceable.
Unspendable?
That's where you come in. With 96 hours left, the government has already moved more than half of its military presence out of the quarantine zone, which makes it vulnerable. I want you to put together a team and get it out. In exchange, $50 million is yours to divvy up amongst whomever you take in with you.
Ooh, here's one more. Kind of a taste of the action.
What happened here?
Where the police and military finally fell. Vegas' last stand.
Whoa, whoa. Everybody be quiet. Did you hear that?
What the hell is that?
Get behind the car! Go! Behind the car!
What is this?
Valentine.
Valentine.
There's a goddamn zombie tiger. That's crossing the line.
Oh, Garrett Dillahunt. Anyway, where was I? All right. Okay. It was directed by Zack Snyder, of course, with the screenplay coming from Zack Snyder and Shay Hatton as a writing team, and Joby Harold. The film also has a really solid supporting cast, including Ella Purnell, Omari Hardwick, Anna de la Reguera, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Theo Rossi, Matthias Schweighofer, Tig Notaro, Garrett Dillahunt, and, not for a long time, but still pretty solid, Hiroyuki Sanada. As for the ideological ingredients, would it qualify for reframe stamp? No. Was it union made? Yes, it was. as far as the Bechdel test goes, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I actually saw a number of solid takes where women were talking to each other that didn't involve a guy. So that definitely passed the Bechdel test. Now, here's an interesting one. Is the story in any way class conscious? You know what? I was kind of stuck on this one, but you know, I'm going to give Zack maybe not a yes, but a yeah, kinda. So that's kind of where I'm coming from there, folks. Yeah, let's get into it now, eh? Jim, what are your first thoughts?
First thoughts is this is the best drive-in movie I've seen in a long time. This sort of reminds me of those sort of, you know, those ones that Tarantino sort of pays homage to in a way, you know, minus the zombie kind of
the
aspect
grindhouse kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah. It's a big messy summer movie, which is what I mean by that. We can get into it. There was I made the mistake of watching the pitch meeting video about this, and I actually agreed with some of the points that he made. But yeah, it's not the sort of the cleanest movie. There's a lot of dropped things, storylines, and sort of plot holes and things like that. Maybe it's all part of this expanded universe. I don't know, but I mean, I enjoyed it. Thought it was probably a bit too long. We'll talk also when you do a zombie movie. Obviously, you have to have a hook because there's been so many of them made now. Is the heist aspect enough of a hook? There's other aspects to it that I enjoyed, but we can I think we can go over them. A lot of headshots that sort of got a little boring, and but some pops of color and some other interesting ideas. Did it feel like a coherent whole? Not necessarily, but I was along for the ride. So, yeah.
Okay. For myself, I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. I suspect maybe we'll argue a little on this one. I thought especially for a Zack Snyder film, it's like, boy, this is pretty solid, and for 2.5 hours, reasonably tight. Could it have lost a couple of pounds here or there? Yes, it could, says the fat guy in the stretchy white, stretchy red sport jacket, tracksuit jacket. I did. I think almost everything he threw at the screen fits the genre expectations. I thought what he stole from a ton of other movies, because I was like, oh, there's Escape from New York. There's I Am Legend. There's Aliens. There's he stole well. Like, I mean, you know, what do they say? Good artists imitate, great artists steal. And he stole a lot here.
Yeah.
I did. I was like, wow, this is like Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 13 meets all the zombie movies, especially World War Z, World War Z, or Z as we would say in Canada. I had a great time. Like you said, I was along for the ride. I was really kind of hopeful. I've never enjoyed Zack Snyder films, but here I was like pleasantly surprised. I had a lot of fun. It's a genre I enjoy. I thought it was handled reasonably well. And even some of the cheese and the extra, I was like, that's a zombie movie. I'm good with it. I am not holding it to too high a standard.
No.
And although I think going back to Dawn of the Dead by George Romero, I think what elevated that film was the satire. I think what elevates a lot of horror movies, especially this kind, is more the satirical commentary they can make. And that's just not Snyder's thing. That said, at least most of the politics in the film I could at least be on side with. I was like, okay, he's gonna get it. I know he's gonna get it, and I'm okay with him getting it. I was pleasantly surprised. I had a great time, and I'm really really glad because it's like, well, 1 out of 8 Zack Snyder films. Rob says sure.
Well, Eric Thorpe's pointing out your commentary today. I think it was released earlier today, and he said you liked 300, although it was problematic.
Well, I can't say I
and I suspect there's a distinction there, which is why I bring it up.
Yeah, and that's a little. I think there's more breathing in this. There's less stylization. It's a little more just a straight ahead movie. There's a part of me, and you know what? Well, I'll get into it later. I don't want to.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So
I think I can sum it up in one line.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead. Sum it up. Sum away.
For Zack Snyder, it's fairly light on its feet.
I might even go a little further than that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. This is almost like it's still Zack Snyder, but I'm kind of like, well, what they do with Zack Snyder? I'm enjoying myself. Okay. Is it worth your time? Could you say that to someone?
If you're in the mood for a summer movie, like a summer action movie like this, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I like the way you described it as a great drive-in movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah. Myself, I can... Yeah, qualifying, of course, for horror, et cetera, but I'm not going to recommend a zombie film to somebody who says, I don't like blood.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not into gore. Yeah, I could totally recommend this. Am I saying, oh, it's brilliant art? It's, again, back to that satirical commentary? No, but totally recommend it. For sure. And I'm so happy that I can, in part because I'm just so used to being bored by his films and bagging on his films, you know? Anyway, okay. Why don't we take this opportunity before we hook into the spoiler zone, before we dig into this flick? I think it's time to say hello to the folks in the chat. They've been wonderful people, been very patient. Thank you all very much. All right. Apparently there's this Jimbo C. Wonder who he is. Okay.
Can't tell he's got a mask.
Vlad 65. Good to see you, man. Good to see you, Walt. Oh, Eric Thorpe from Eric Thorpe Reviews. I love it. You're all saying hi to. Oh, we got Richard L. How you doing, man? And I'm you know what? I trust that Katie Fowler is there with you. And then the Upside Dan. And again, thanks very much, Dan, for shouting us out that way. That was fun to watch the end of your thing. It's oh, that's us, Jim.
Empire State representing.
Yep. Okay, who else do we got here? We've got, as I scroll right on through, another great friend of the show, Brian from Dragon Movie Guy, DMG in the house.
Woo-hoo.
How are the Knights doing? Jets are plugging
The
away.
Jets are doing fine.
Oh, zing. All right, I think we got our answer there. Okay, I think I've captured everyone. Great to see y'all, and we will come back to the chat. As a matter of fact, Tech, let's just throw it up on the big screen now.
Sure.
We'll have it on regularly so we can keep our eye on it. Jim, are we ready? Are we ready to get into the spoiler zone?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, folks, that is your cue. If I can ever find my spoiler zone thing. Well, you know what? You're just going to have to accept that we are now officially in the spoiler zone. And why don't we start with the craft? And when we say craft, folks, we're talking about the look, the sound, the soundtrack, the performances, the cinematography, the blocking, the nuts and bolts that make a movie a movie. Jim, want to start us off? Want to kick us off there?
Take it away. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly enough to comment on here. Yeah, I mean, it was it's kind of interesting to see a movie like this, like to see Vegas in this state. I was there one time, I think it was about 4 years ago, so I could pinpoint the hotel that we were staying in, and to see this dystopian more dystopian Las Vegas. No, I'm just kidding. To see this dystopian Las Vegas Strip is in the state that it was in was pretty interesting. So it had an interesting vision for the city itself. When they went inside, it felt like there was actually, well, that's the theme. I'll get into that later. But there were certain aspects of the look of it that I really liked. The zombies, especially the Alpha Queen and the Alpha King, they looked kind of interesting. The Alpha Queen was a body double for Wanda not Wanda, the other one, Agatha, I think, in WandaVision there. That I was reading, and so I was trying to get a little bit of sense of them, because the way, and this is part of the craft, the way they moved, it seemed almost like they were modern dancers, but the arms were always back, especially with the turbo fitted zombies there. And there was one really great shot.
No, they never showed pumping.
Yeah, no, they were just always sort of, it was momentum. There was one really great shot that I think is one of those ooh shots that he was going for. The reaction was when it was looking from a swimming pool onto this tableau of the zombie army, and you could see, deep end, 6 meters deep, like those little signs. And then there was the cloth curtain was swirling behind them. It was part of that pregnant zombie queen reveal, and it was just a held shot for several seconds. I thought that was something else. It was quite good. Just trying to think of other aspects of it. I enjoyed the sound, like the sounds of the zombies. The Valentine, the lion was pretty cool. Tiger was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You have to sort of wonder if a structural engineer, you can see the backbones poking out of the back of the tiger, whether they go, well, technically the spine's no longer connected, so the back wouldn't get that much leverage. But anyway,
apparently we didn't need a structural engineer. We
No.
got you
there we go.
chime in on that.
But so and it captured other aspects of the container gate. There's a lot of there's a whole area of like a container city in or town right in Vegas. We went there when we were there, and sort of little aspects like that. But how about you? What did you think of the craft? Was anything did anything stand out for you?
I wanted to ask you this before I kind of got. What did you think of the soundtrack? I thought, there's a couple of solid moments where, and again, it's something I expect from, especially this kind of more high energy horror, where, it's on the nose, but it's pretty good on the nose. It's still kind of, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
A couple moments where they're like, ooh, they get to go into the slow, what is it, Bad Moon on the Rise.
Yeah.
Boy, just ripping off vampire movies, where they get to go slow, and because it's just, somebody hired to, hey, do a cappella version. Well,
yeah.
Not a cappella, but you know what I mean? We got to save some money, too. But yeah, I thought, I wanted to know what you thought of the soundtrack. It's usually something you're, a little more on, especially when it comes to the music.
Well, I thought
it's like too much, not enough, or just fine.
I thought the Cranberries the zombie at the end was, a little bit on the nose, as you were saying, but a lot of the Las Vegas stuff. I don't know if I'm tired of sort of Elvis and Vegas yet. Like that's sort of that's a real easy connection to make, and even if you had like something you could get all ironic and have Celine Dion or something like that, singing something. But I think Viva Las Vegas
that is a great
sort of been done to death, and
well, especially under a whole sequence that's basically right out of Zombieland.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I've seen this before, and that's out of The Stand, and
yeah, yes. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, how what a cultural center Vegas has end up being in a lot of ways, as you're mentioning. Stand, so many other things. The Goodfellas, any of that kind of mob story. Bugsy, I
Casino.
think. Yeah, Casino. But oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, Goodfellas is East Coast. Walt's gonna skewer me for that. Casino. Yes, there we go. I'm tired. Yeah. So I mean, it's obviously an interesting place for a lot of people. What was I going to suggest? I think Suspicious Minds was also
Yep,
was in the soundtrack too.
it was.
And it's a great song. Not so sure I'm like, it's always neat to see a surprise in the soundtrack. You know what I mean? Like one thing that they've been doing a lot lately is taking sort of like some happy major song and turning it into the minor chord version and sort of making it creepy.
Sat it up.
Like Itsy
Sat
Bitsy,
it up. And
yeah,
creepy
Itsy
and-
Bitsy Spider or something like that. And I mean, that's sort of a typical move, but the surprise sound choice, I can't think of anything offhand, but usually when you think, oh, that's kind of neat, that's always a little more wins me over more than sort of the obvious
a
choice.
little more satisfying to you.
Yeah, yeah.
For myself, it didn't feel. I never felt with the soundtrack like it was hitting me over the head with it, though, either. It wasn't super loud. It was just there, except when, the Viva Las Vegas, the opening sequence. Yeah, I get it. I wasn't really, like I said, I was more thinking, wow, this is Zombieland.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's, I thought, it was on the nose, but as ridiculous as it sounds, not too on the nose. As far as the rest of it goes, like, the cinematography, which he also did. He did the cinematography. I thought it was all pretty solid. Like, if I could have had something else, is a little bit more finding where I am in place when they're in the refugee village outside the container wall. I would have liked just a little more, okay, where am I in place? But, okay, it can't have everything, and who knows, maybe it ended up on the cutting room floor. Otherwise, I thought the action was well shot. Again, you knew where you were in place. You had a couple of pretty good sequences. They're doing the fast zombie thing. You mentioned it earlier. We are starting to run out of ideas of what we can do with zombies, but it's still, kind of met the zombie quotient, the zombie kill quotient, because it is a zombie movie. And I thought it was kind of neat that there's at least some moral discussion, hearkening back to George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, a little bit of pity for these poor buggers like that have ended up the way they've ended up. And I kind of thought that was, okay, I'm getting into story now, sorry. But as far as the way they shot everyone and that, I thought it was solid. Performances were all solid. Coming to the whole shooting of scenes, I felt like there were real scenes that, so when there was some heart to hearts that happened, it didn't feel like jammed in with action and then, okay, we'll have a quick heart to heart and then action, or big capital M moments with sweeping vista and really obvious orchestration and big swelling music. Like, it was all just nicely, just a more straight ahead. Like, even the costume, everything, it was all pretty straight ahead. It all looked reasonable. Even, and Jim, I'll bring one up that kind of, that surprised me actually quite a bit. So you had this woman who is,
who is Canadian.
Her. Is she?
Yeah, Samantha Wynn, I think her name is.
That is Samantha Wynn. You're right. and I bought that. Like, I mean, she's the only one who does, who's, you know, the bare midriff and looking like she could be at a club or something. At the same time, it actually, I bought it with the character because it was all part of Buddy's scene where they're basically YouTube stars killing zombies and always looking like a, you know, the gangster or the street tough part, you know, like a hip hop street punk zombie killer part. So I'm like, I bought that, but otherwise everyone else, like, I mean, put another shot up. You know what, for a Zack Snyder film, you know, everyone looked kind of reasonable. Like, you weren't going, okay, that's over the top. I mean, it's still got some of his similar look beats. Like, I mean, the guys are all like, you know, or that weird sort of, you know, big, beefy, solid dudes, or some kind of weird sort of, are we questioning Dieter's sexuality now? Is this what we're going to do? You know, like, you know, it was almost like a stereotypical German. I'm going to a Kraftwerk concert, you know, like that kind of dig. But yeah, no, I thought the look, the performances, everything was pretty solid. And again, refreshingly not oppressive. For a film shot in Vegas, it had a remarkable amount of color for Zack Snyder. You know, it wasn't super desaturated. It's like, well, yeah, there's going to be a lot of earth tones here because it's dusty desert Vegas. I was good with it. I would be interested, though, in hearing what DMG, if he could chime in on it regarding the the look of Vegas and, you know, some of the stuff he saw. Is it like, or, you know, was Dave Bautista cooking at like some well-known greasy spoon in Vegas or something? I'm just curious. Anything else you wanted to, or?
I was.
What else can we talk about as far as the craft goes?
In terms of the craft,
what did you think of the stunts? Nothing was like super jaw-dropping, but
you know, there was one sequence where Dave Bautista's Scott character was running on tables. You know, close to the end, where he was sort of just running on roulette tables to get away from the horde. Although that was pretty cool. There was a few others. There was the the fight with the parkour zombie, I'll call him, who was doing the capoeira. Obviously, he came from Brazil because he was doing the high kicks and the, you know, it's there's a whole thing about the logic of zombies. I wonder if that's him in the credits, capoeira zombie, and it'd be like, Alex Flores. But you know, the I don't know, there a lot of that, you know, that one fight, I mean, it was kind of ridiculous to have a zombie with all these skills, but it was at least interesting. And there were actually a lot of sequences where it would, and I sort of wondered about the purpose of this, because we've seen it so many times, is that they would just like shoot, you know, it'd be like, oh, this guy's a good shot, and he'd be shooting like 5 zombies in the head. We get it. It takes a headshot. We've seen it before. Like, you know, maybe dispense with that and come up with something else. But, you know, and I think they tried to come up with this, you know, the other zombies, they were quite, you know, they were obviously strong fighters, and it took a lot to bring them down. But yeah, a lot of the hordes don't impress me as much as the one-on-one stuff, I guess.
Yeah. I think, though, that here, I'm going to put this most recent one up from DMG. He was in that Barstow. Maybe that's what they're referring to. I was okay. Here is a movie I think everyone, they took it seriously, but everyone knew the movie they were in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were no big speeches. There were no, you know, so yes, Capoeira, I can laugh about that and still feel good about the movie. It was like, you know, it actually becomes more to enjoy in what is kind of a ridiculous, I could see, you know, it's not my things, you know, it was barely my thing when I was younger, definitely not my thing at my age now. But I could see younger people, you know, are into the reefer, into the weed.
I'd like to see
Maybe
a
have
Ukrainian
an
dancer
epic
zombie that would be doing that kind of the kicks.
It'd be great. I'd be down with
or have
that.
it, you know, have a zombie attack on Folklorama in Winnipeg here in the middle of August one year, and there's just different kinds of ethnically dressed zombies.
It's terrible. And many sashes when the youth ambassador
Little-
comes
yeah.
and eats half your family.
I'll
Folks,
give you some
for
aquavit crash.
our American friends in the chat. Folklorama, Google it. It is worth your time. Something maybe not unique to Winnipeg. I'm sure other folks have their, like, you know, the ethnic communities that make up your city, the mosaic, the cultural mosaic of their city. Winnipeg's is a 2-week festival that was only supposed to be once in the 70s and just kept going.
Yeah.
Anyway, Eric says, regarding, I want to go back to this comment from DMG, just talking about the look and everything. He doesn't think that a diner was supposed to be in Vegas. The shipping containers surrounded the strip, and I believe the rest of Vegas was besides McCarran being a refugee camp. Now is McCarran
Airport.
like just outside
That's their
of the-
airport.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's really close to the strip.
So, and they kept referring to Barstow. I'll meet you in Barstow. So, is that part of it? Maybe that greasy spoon was in Barstow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that now, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. What's Upside Down says they're from Eric. They're from Vegas, Eric. So is saying, why didn't they tell us this movie happened? It's a good point. The Upside Down. Yeah, DMG. What the WTF, as the kids would say. Have I missed anyone in the chat? No, look in the... No. Yeah, I think it was solid sound. Just for a Zack Snyder film, pretty simple, straightforward film. You know, it's like like as far as the look and everything goes, not. I will say this: he probably got similar money to the. Not Army of the Dead. Oh, what's that one? $70 million. Help me out, Jim.
Oh, Old Guard.
The Old Guard. Probably got similar money, but Netflix is going, wow, we actually got all our money on the screen. Like it looked big enough. Like they really did work with a, you know, not a $150 or $200 million budget. Definitely not. But I felt everything, it crowded in at the right times. We got enough of a, you know, some bigger scenes, some vistas and that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was good. Yeah, Netflix is probably like, oh yeah, this is great production values.
Another aspect of it that I liked, I was just thinking now, is that the whole segment when they finally did turn the generators on, but they turned the generators on and were allowed to light up the interior of the casino. I thought that was a night, instead of having these, you know, endless darkened rooms, to have the whoomp, you know, and the power and all the lights and everything else come on. I thought that was kind of a neat, nice little bit. And not so much an effect, but just a sort of a pragmatic way to turn on all the lights. I thought that worked well too.
Yeah. And you know what? It helped make certain sense of things. You know, you're divvying people up so you can build some, first of all, you can get rid of some characters. So you've got a lot of characters going on. You can send them on their little side adventures, not side quests, side adventures. They have their own separate goals, and, you know, they'll kind of get scooped up later, including Tig Notaro. I thought that was handled really well, and also then made sense. You know, when she gets to the helicopter, it's not pristine and tick, 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 boom.
Yeah.
You know, But I guess that's kind of, we're starting to go into story territory.
Sure,
I just
yeah.
want to kind of work through a couple of these comments. DMG says, the layout of the zombie casinos had his attention, though. The Olympus was right next to Planet Hollywood on Harmon, Las Vegas Boulevard. The Bly was where Bally's is on Flamingo and Las Vegas Boulevard. Does that mean that, like, is there an Olympus, or was that just a made-up one because they...
Yeah, I didn't recognize it, but that may just be me, having been there once. Like.
Yeah. Walt says, here we are. Walt says, New Mexico and Atlantic City were shooting locations. Yes, because of course there's plenty of hotels that are doing SFA because Trump managed to destroy an entire city's economy. Although I suppose we could also hold the city fathers who went, sure, that makes sense, Mr. Trump, to account as well. Okay, Eric Thorpe. All I'm going to say to this question is, I don't understand either. DMG says, okay, coming back to location and again, just trying to figure out where people were. I would like to, Barstow is a small truck stop town in California between LA and Vegas. Oh, kind of I'm thinking of, Jim, what is it? That kind of halfway point where you might get gas on your way to Kenora. Okay.
Yeah.
Roughly 3 hours from Vegas, comedian Carlos Mencia makes fun of Barstow. Okay, well, good to know.
He also added just now both the casinos are fake. Both those specific casinos are fake. Yeah.
So they could do whatever the hell they wanted. Here's Walt says, did they have Penn and Teller zombies fooling the heroes with trickery? No, they did not. And I think if they did that, it would end up being the same gag. They would just rip off Zombieland. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but they'd rip off Zombieland and they'd be like, no, we're not zombies. Oh, you killed Teller.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm not a zombie. He will be. We should deal with that. Oh, that's actually a good bit.
All the zombies are at the Britney show. Just kidding. Time out. Just kidding.
Don't pick on Britney.
Free Britney.
Okay.
I'm just trying to be topical.
Witty. Where was I? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I was going to say.
We were going to story after craft and reading a few
we're
comments.
Do that. There's something about the comments or something somebody said. Now I'm totally lost, guys. Was there any question? I just want to make sure I'm not missing a question. I think I'm good. Everyone's having their own adventures.
Barstow, I think, is probably on Death Valley, for instance. If you're thinking about where things are, Death Valley is only a couple hours from Vegas, so that's probably on the way-ish.
I finally found that overlay.
So there we go.
Just a quick reminder, everyone, we're well into the story. Okay, so yes, you're right, Jim. Let's get into story. You know what? If you wouldn't mind, I'd love to go first on this one.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Again, and I have immersed myself in so much Zack Snyder of late that I can say, without a doubt, not since 300 has this been such a tight, again, for him, such a tight narrative. Yeah, absolutely. How did Dave Bautista's character, how did Scott end up in a greasy spoon? That's not really, I think that's more implied and not well implied. It's like, okay, maybe it was because he had to kill his wife to rescue his daughter, and then they stole from the Ant-Man. It's like just such a mush of other movies.
Yeah.
But in a great way. So there's certainly dangling threads here and there. And which is kind of surprising for a movie that is 2.5 hours, a solid 2.5 hours. But for a Zack Snyder film, there's you know what? All the story beats are there. There's a proper beginning. There's a proper setup. We have the inciting incident. We have the hemming and hawing, and then we have the go and the point of no return and all these other elements that make up a story. And even though, and it's funny, Jim, as much as it is, there's elements here that are maybe not ripped off. Heck, why am I recognizing them all? I've seen a lot of movies. I can only imagine how many movies an LA director has seen in his life.
Oh yeah.
That said, yeah, it had a satisfying ending. It was reasonably well paced. I never felt rushed. I really didn't think it dragged that much either. In part, like if you look at the first 10 minutes, it's kind of like the first 15 minutes or the first 10 minutes of Star Wars. It's almost like a little movie that you don't necessarily need before the movie starts. You know, it is a nice to have though, and it was entertaining. So there is all kinds of things that I thought, wow, this is for Zack Snyder. I'm like, I know who the character is. Hey, I know he's got an internal problem and an external problem. I know what it is. It's revealed at the right time. I think it's reasonably well earned. I think Dave Bautista, although he's no The Rock, he had the chops to help deliver it. Snyder could pull the performance out to make the story work. Yeah, I thought this story was pretty solid. It was solid, and it had a nice ending. Yeah, there were, it'd be nice to know how the hell did he get out? But even that part, that's a zombie movie thing that someone has been doomed to death is gonna make it out. Even the way they end on that, and I won't mention it just in case somebody didn't watch all the way through. That's in there. It'd be the one spoiler don't give away. You got to remember, search it up. Most of these cast that lived are signed up for Army of the Dead Las Vegas. Like they are setting up a TV show. This is like a super awesome pilot for what may be a TV show. So, maybe some of these threads are purposely dangling so that they can kind of have some narrative stuff left over for the first season of Army of the Dead, or a sequel perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know. What you did not feel that way. I got the impression.
Well, there's certain things that, at some point, I'll preface that with this and say that my wife and I recently watched Lupin on Netflix about the French, professional thief. Quite good, nice and charming, but boy, you really have to. It's that sort of you have to. What's the phrase? Suspension of disbelief. It's sort of Zack a little bit, like just the crawling it. So how does he get out of the sealed vault and walk through the currently active radioactive landscape? And the thing that bugs him is the bite on his,
that he didn't even notice that until so much later.
Well, that's the muscles.
It's like kind of.
That's when you have that much muscles,
Sure.
You don't know that people have bitten you. One of the big things.
I would love it if there's a prequel movie about Dieter.
Yeah, he was good. And the shame of this is, spoiler zone, is that you kill off almost the whole team. You set them up as interesting people, and then you sort of just you kill them off. That's occupational hazard when you go into this. There's a couple things. If I was going to ask for any nuance,
even that part I loved because that you felt when they died. I was bummed at the end, although I'm still not 100% sure Tig Notaro's character did die, but I was just like, I thought for sure she'd make it.
Yeah,
Sorry,
just the I forgot sort of my thread there, but when you introduce these characters, and not all of them were dealt with, like the sort of the rule is if you don't see them die, they're technically maybe not dead. So we never saw what happened to Dieter, right? We never saw, he just closed the door. Evidently he would have been killed. But for me, one of the drop things, and I know what I was going to say. Okay, so there's, in terms of nuance, I would like to have seen this. A sense that they knew this was doomed. I think they were all sort of casting their lots in just for the cash, just to get out of here. Tig Notaro's character says, "I hate my life so deeply," that she would have just.
I don't care. Yeah.
I don't care. Sign me up.
Well,
I'm in. $2 million.
Well, she's the one with the death wish, right? She's literally like under the, like, how that didn't blow up, I don't know.
But I would like
guess
to have,
because we needed her to fly the helicopter later. That's why it didn't blow up.
But I would like to have seen, like, you didn't. They just sort of said, "Okay, we'll do that. I'm free the Saturday," or whatever. I would like to have seen that a little more sense of, like, we're fucked. Who cares? I don't care about, like, a little bit more nihilism on their part. But they just sort of went in. We're strapping up. I mean, I think they were all, but I think they all knew they were doomed, but there could have been they could have made a better sense of that, I think. It's also kind of interesting that we're describing this as fun.
Remember, you're putting a team together for a heist.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a genre expectation when you're putting a team together for a heist, that maybe one or two characters will go, "Are you sure?" And we did get that from her to him, like, and she later on, the woman, Maria Cruz is the character's name, played by Ana de la Reguera. She was, you sure? That sounds like we're gonna die, but of course she's in. It is Rick and Morty did a great bit. Rick Sanchez, you son of a bitch! Of course I'm in. Yeah, like a whole,
well,
in the heist, the heist of heist.
Yeah,
the ever repeating heist film.
So
that Rick and Morty did not season 4, I think. Yeah,
I mean, I haven't watched a lot of heist movies lately, but generally your team is a little more familiar with each other, and I think this goes towards the doom of it. Like, they didn't necessarily have that chemistry already. It's just like, who else is free? You're in? Okay. The one thing I did like about The Clever was the sliding scale of how much they would get paid. It went from 15 million to 2 million to 10,000,
250,000
as you brought characters in. And finally, the final guy was that rapist security guard whose character was named Bert Cummings. Hello, for any, not Burton Cummings, who's a Winnipeg legend, but Bert Cummings. Yeah, I just, part of the getting us a team together in a sloppy way in 24 hours, I think speaks to the doomed quality of it. Like, I sort of, in the end, they didn't know, except for a couple, they didn't know each other's moves. And then you bring this security guy, Dillahunt, and he was obviously shady from the start.
Oh yeah, there's almost always in these ones, especially when the boss, the client puts their guy in it.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, that's the person who's going to screw us all. You know what though, Jim? I thought it was just like, they were, while not making it feel like a box ticking exercise, or I didn't feel that, it was like, yeah, they're hitting all these genre expectations. And when they do have some fun, they had fun with it when they subverted it. When they meet the boss, they're not all cool and got the great answers, and the one's just, wait, no, I was lying. I haven't shot shit. You're all crazy. You're gonna die. And he walks away. And it's like, all right.
Yeah.
There's no Ocean's 11, get in the fucking house. It's the guy's just, no, I was bullshitting. What are you talking about? And he just walks away.
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome. And I think there was enough of, everyone sort of had a reason to be there, including even the. I think they all had a death wish, and I think you can see that in the way each character played out. You know, whether it be a pretty solid hint at the beginning or something, you know, happening along. But you look at who they got. Well, it's like a lot of criminals. They take a lot of risks because to a certain degree they may not care. Like you'd have to practice to get good at shooting 3 zombies in a row. That means you're taking a lot of risks.
Yeah.
You're getting close to, you know, so like that guy's not exactly somebody you'd be, no young woman who's got her head on her shoulders is going, ooh, there's a future. You know, do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's part of what worked for me. And it was enough funny. And again, no one's taking themselves too seriously. Heck, there was maybe a little bit of the dick measuring contest, I think you'd call it, you know, who's the leader, maybe a little bit of that from Garrett Dillahunt. But, you know, Dieter, although he's a bit of he felt like a stereotype at the beginning, you know, in the end, I'm looking for the character's name, Vandero, buddy with the saw, wasn't, you know, just took care of him. You know, no, mind you, it's partly because he's the one who's going to get him in the safe. I'm okay with greed. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all worked for me.
There's a good,
which just so shocks me.
For me, the sloppiest thing was just the storyline with Gita, because we kept on hearing about Gita, and I've confirmed this, that the helicopter crashes, and this is the woman that they rescue, that the daughter insists on coming along because of, and then putting everyone in jeopardy, and you know, having her own little side thing, and they rescue Scott's daughter, and they all get on the helicopter, they take off, and you know, we're led to believe that most of them don't survive the helicopter crash. Tig Notaro is sort of, is she asleep? Is she unconscious? What's going on there? But Gita is not, you know, this is a huge part of the plot. And to me, that feels sloppy rather than like the question mark. And there's several of those things throughout that just, and that I'm not confident enough in the filmmaker that this isn't sloppiness and this is on purpose. If it is on purpose, there's a way to do that. Do it properly so you know it's a sort of a cliffhanger.
Okay, I am going to run with you on that one. Yes, you're right. Even at the time, I'm just so excited. I enjoyed so much of it. I forgot about
and I'm not trying to.
I did not like
trying to dump on it.
The daughter, the way the daughter came along.
Yeah,
didn't like that at all. Didn't buy, like, even she had kind of a weird death wish, taking on the cop / security guard / power, you know, images of, oh, you're a Black Lives Matter crime.
Yeah.
Just oozes it, right? That exploitation of his role. Yeah, I didn't like that, and you're absolutely right. There's other ways they could have brought her along, other ways to get her on the team. And this is actually referring earlier, this would be a bit of the fat. Could have just ditched that whole storyline. You know, could have ditched it all. This is a coyote. We could have even just seen her, you know, say, hey, you only came back. Weren't 3 go with you and only 2 are back? Yeah, well, sometimes they don't make it back. Mm-hmm. What do you want me to do about it? Whatever. Yeah. We could have been shown that. She could have ended up going in another way. And then, you know what? You could have still had a lot of the same story elements. Just somebody getting yanked. Like they're, you know, about to get out. And then all of a sudden like, oh, Daddy. You know, she's dragged off into the dark. And
yeah.
All right, you guys go ahead. I got to go find my kid. Yeah. Something, yeah. Right? It's been, okay, and I'm using something that's used a lot, but it isn't as irritating, and I find those ones really drive me nuts, where it's like, oh, so the kid's going to do some horse shit about, she has kids. It's like, yeah, she did, and she went in, and, I'm not, and that she would put everyone else at risk by buggering off, because she knows dad's going to follow her. She knows these things, and it's like kind of, that's the contrivance that I really dislike. It's a contrivance that's used a lot that it's like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
Which, again, I'm going to say, this is the strength of this movie compared to so much other things I've seen recently, where I'm like, wow, I had to be reminded of that. That's right.
Yeah.
That part did suck. Anyway, what a great movie.
Yeah, to counter that, I thought you just mentioned the Coyote character. I don't think we should overlook her. I think her character's name was Lily. She was she's a French actress, Nora
Arnazeder.
Yeah, and she was super compelling. She actually reminded me of that really tall American actress Mackenzie. She was in the latest Terminator movie, but once you got a clue. Yeah, and she was also on that AMC computer, the birth of the computer industry show. But
I could see living.
Yeah,
and I think they
Eric
left
Thorpe
enough
said
that she could live.
What did Eric say? Earlier said that I'm pretty sure Dieter is dead, but you don't know unless you actually see it.
I think we're seeing him get bit.
Oh, was that?
We saw him bit.
I thought he just got pulled away, but
I think we saw him got bit.
I've all of us have watched enough shows that unless you have physical evidence of somebody getting it, they haven't gotten it. And that may be either cheap writing or whatever. Just people looking for an out. I did want to actually ask you about, and you were talking about. I did watch your thing earlier today about Zack Snyder movies, your piece earlier. What did you think?
This, Jim?
Yes. That wasn't a plan. I was actually, but in terms of that, what did you think of the?
But I'm going to take full advantage. Oh yeah, what did I think? Sorry.
There was a couple of. It's aside from the death of Dillahunt, his character, which he was clawed to death by the zombie tiger. In a really spectacular fashion and scarred up and everything else. Oh. I found that the deaths of the women were portrayed in a fairly gleeful, is that the way? Especially and oddly, the zombie queen, where he garroted her and sort of slowly cut off her head and sort of the character seemed to revel in it. And then when Maria's character died, that was very cruel too, because her head was turned back, like broken and turned back,
spun, and it's the only time we see a zombie not chew them to death.
Yeah, and then there was the impaling of the coyote, and I just thought some of the guys were allowed to sort of like Dieter was sort of pulled away and bitten. The Hispanic guy with the blonde eye jaw was blown up. Those are
after he got piled on. I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Classic.
But
you know what?
There was sort of a
tone,
Byzantine
maybe
equality, a tone with the deaths of the women that was a little more gleeful, I thought, than the deaths of the men.
Cruel.
Maybe I'm being a bit sensitive, or
no. I think actually most of them are story earned, though. The cruelty, because it's also who's doing the killing.
Yeah. Being shot in the head by your daughter is not, I'm saying, a fun one, but
or a knife through the top of the head of
the last death that we
mom.
see. Yeah. But some of them have sort of a tableau-like quality.
Let me answer the question. I do think they were earned. And first of all, we don't, Lily, there is a part of me, it's like, oh, this is, because there's always somebody who survives that shouldn't, that should be dead. And I'm like, oh, maybe this is how, because we don't see her bite. So does he take her, drop her off in the room like he's done with every other one? And she would get out of that. So we may get to see her in the TV show. Although Eric may be correcting us on that, saying, nope, not in the cast. The zombie queen, I think that cruelty is also who did it. It was Garrett Dillahunt, who's, I thought we were just going to take some blood. I think that was I think that cruelty is it's one of those, it's saying, again, it's the zombie queen. It's saying something about Garrett Dillahunt's character, just what a greasy bastard he is. And definitely his joy, because he was just creeping on every woman, always creepy. He's the one who puts the Chambers character in jeopardy. And even though, and that was a great action sequence, she almost gets out. Like, it was a great, and her death was cool, and not like in any way gleeful. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel that as much. That said, it is, maybe if I watch it again, I'm not sure I will, but if I do, I'm not saying it's an amazing piece of cinema art, but if I do watch it again, I'll keep an eye out for that. Because, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, it was a gruesome, Maria's death was gruesome and had a lot of scene in that. But is it also they want to give her a unique death and a clean face, let's say, so that Dave Bautista's character can have a moment of, she's dead. She is. Because they had just had that emotional moment together where, hey, they're making a connection. And it was at the right time in the story, because we're still into story, it's the right time where they should cost something, where they've got the money, everyone's safe-ish, and this is the moment where it should that there's a price to be paid. You got to lose something when you get what you want. And yes, he lost big. He is the lead character. He's driving the whole action. It's all, in a lot of ways, it's all his hang-ups are a lot of the reason of his inability to deal with his internal issues are a big chunk of the reason that all these people he cares about, the ones he does, are there. She's literally saying, I'm here for you. The daughters said, if you were there for me before, I think that's, so I think that cruelty, I didn't see the glee in that part. And I thought the cruelty had a narrative purpose, but
Yeah. Well, and you had been talking about the portrayal of women and sort of how some of them had been, like what he's done in the past with various.
Well, and this is the thing. This is very little offended me about this film. Is it perfect? No. Is he perfect as a filmmaker? Is he just suddenly redeemed himself? There still is, I mean, like a lot of horror films, and horror films are always problematic with women. It's always the good-hearted and innocent woman who makes it, whereas all the other women had guilt or were, you could see in a horror movie morality why they died. But for once, I'm not putting it all on Zack Snyder. I'm like that's a kind of horror movie thing. That's that's an expectation of the genre. Not
you
to
are
say
dealing with
that,
death.
Yeah, I mean, it does bear looking at it, but I don't know, like Burt Cummings, his crap death, that was, although again, it narratively made sense. Like as soon as she says, we need somebody else, it's like, oh, he's a goner.
Yeah. I like her.
I couldn't believe that he even lasted as long as he did, because I thought for sure it's gonna fragged. You just shot him in the back of the head. No, I didn't. That was an accident. That was enemy fire. They don't shoot guns. Yeah. What can I tell you?
What did
Misfire.
in terms of things that you perhaps haven't seen, and Richard brought it up the sort of the physiology of zombies just quickly.
I want to get that. I want to find that. Where are we here?
But
Is it way back?
Yeah, probably about 20
there
minutes.
we are. Always curious. So Richard L. says, I'm always curious about zombie physiology. They can apparently get pregnant, but don't need a body for their heads to work. Who knows, eh? It also seemed to kind of imply that the baby lived. Like it had a color change or something. So is he holding it up like the Lion King? We will all now. I
guess you make your own rules when it comes to zombies. I particularly like the when it rains, sometimes they come back alive. That was like,
well, here's the thing.
In terms of things that we haven't seen before, the zombies recreating has to be at the top of the list.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's setting up other stuff, though.
Yeah.
But also, actually, not just, but it's still ripping off another movie. We have seen it before, although it wasn't zombies. It's a weird kind of vampire. But the I Am Legend, it's his wife and their child. Or she's pregnant. It's implied she's pregnant or something. This is not the first time.
Yeah.
Again, boy, he ripped off a lot of movies. But in a way that fit in. They were all earned ripoffs. It wasn't like, I'll take this sequence and then just jam it in, and then that sequence and jam it in. I thought it all kind of, it felt organic.
I got a few LOTR vibes, and specifically Uruk-hai. And when they emerge out of that first casino, they're inside, and they've just lost the Samantha Wynn character. It almost feels like when they emerge from the mines of Moria, where they just sort of splay themselves over the concrete. Not exactly, but a little bit of that. So, sorry, go ahead,
Eric. I'm not 100% sure the context. Eric says, I don't really think Zack needs to, quote, redeem himself, close quote, just because he's polarizing as a filmmaker. Let's say if this is a redeeming picture, it's a redeeming picture for me. Well, I don't know. I don't want him to redeem himself. I want him to make good films. And he made a good one here, and so I'm happy. I'm like, my time was well spent. I do want to draw attention, though. Eric he's got the whole narrative down. Dieter's getting a prequel. There's going to be a TV show where Dave Bautista. So some of these storylines are actually going to be filled out by television shows and films. Mm-hmm. So I think that's, we'll have to stay tuned. There may be a future zombie movie or at least in establishing a prequel or something, Ahmed is here. Wondering why there are no hot takes.
Isn't that a hot take?
No, I don't think so, actually.
No,
he's asking a question. No hot takes so far. Unless we were really following a lot of the hockey talk, and I wasn't. We can only have so many conversations going in our heads at one time. Listen, you're in the hands of the best chat on the internet. You're all doing fine. Oh, and yes, let us all say, Ahmed. And
by hockey, we mean iced hockey. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Because he comes from...
With sugar.
Yes. So if there was a character that you want to see survive, say, it's your draft, you get to pick another character.
The Coyote.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's a great... But who knows? Maybe it is some sort of... you know what? For sentimentality reasons, I would love... I knew as soon as a daughter was involved, it's like, oh, yeah, Scott's done for.
Well, as soon as he started
he's got to sacrifice for his daughter.
Yeah.
It was just like that's the expectation right at the beginning. Never mind the talk of food trucks. But why? What did you think about the food truck? What's the...
just once you start making future plans, you're done.
Yeah.
Wasn't it of Mice and Men? Weren't they going somewhere? Wasn't there a piece of land they were going to buy? Or I can't remember.
Milk
it's been
and honey.
years or something like that. It's like, just over yonder is our dream.
And I get to tens the rabbits? Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
You get
artisanal
the rabbits.
grilled cheese. You're done. You're done. Forget it.
Yeah. Anyway, I think though, yes, Mr. Bautista did play, and I'm kind of, I'm a little shocked, everyone, at how good, like, I mean, MMF or MMA has popped out a few like solid actors. I think Dave Bautista is, he's got a soulful look to him, and he's managed to deliver that. But I think it is though time, Jim. We've been. I think it's time to get into the meaning. Unless there's anything else you wanted to add to our conversation about the story.
No, I think we covered it. Yeah. Oh, I did want to ask you about Heist. Is it a heist movie if there's nobody to con? If you're just going to go and pick up something, essentially.
There was a heist. They've got to sneak in under the nose of the zombies, and they make a deal. Like there is somebody protecting the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
There's multiple cons. So, but that isn't the real mission.
Yeah.
Which again, stealing from aliens. But even the it's Ocean's 12 reference. Well, I know insurance made it, but I still want my money. You can have some of it, or you can keep whatever extra. But yeah, I would say it's still a heist. Still, you are still stealing something from under someone. You're still breaking into a vault. There is somebody running the show within there. Heck, you got to get in there without the government knowing, because you're not allowed to go in there.
Yeah, that's true.
There's, you know what? It's a heist. It's not necessarily a heist. I don't believe a heist. It's like any bank job. It's a bank job. It doesn't have to be. There doesn't have to be a con with it. I think, and this is for the most part a con-free.
Yeah.
Like the criminals are getting conned, not the bank owner, not the money owner.
And I didn't mean that as an open question, because I hadn't read up on the qualities of a heist movie, but just one of those things to sort of keep in mind. What are the ingredients of a heist movie? There's got to be some sort of con. There's got to be some sort of mission. There's got to be some sort of riches or reward, and a team, presumably.
Was Dave Bautista? I saw a chat. No, it is. They put the team together. They hit these beats, and that's another thing. For again, in 2.5 hours, there's like 3 genres in here, and he's got to, because they're hammered so hard. He's got to, in a way, meet the expectations of them, and he does in, relatively speaking, a small amount of time. Dave Bautista, somebody said he's actually from wrestling.
World Wrestling, yeah.
Yeah, I did not know that. All right, let's talk about, Jim, the meaning. The themes of the piece.
Yeah.
Which, run with it, baby.
Don't trust casino owners. I don't know how his name is Bly, because there's literally no L in the Japanese language. But anyway, that's a small point. I mean, it's that sort of, I don't know. I was just sort of along for the ride, that I wasn't necessarily thinking about theme, but a lot of it had to do with trust. I mean, you literally couldn't trust any character, even the Bautista's, or Scott Ryan or Scott was paying the people different amounts, and not like, it went from literally 15. So there's 5 million left, 2 million for Tignataro. Then it went to 100,000 or 50,000, 20,000.
You want to make 250 grand, for a day's work.
Yeah.
You know what? I agree with you. At the same time, I'm also like, well, there's a contractor. Like, well, no, these are the ones I really need. And then, well, we're hiring jobbers. What's your going rate for a day of high risk?
Yeah.
Little capitalist moment.
Yeah. So I'd say just about trust, and I think too that all these people, at some point they were at the end of their rope, right? There was a desperation element to this, and again, I thought that could have been pointed out a little bit more clearly, because they all seem kind of bright-eyed, but at the same time they're in kind of this dire situation. So I think it's just the role of desperation was an important aspect to the meaning of it.
Going back to the definition of heist, let us quickly just throw up DMG's comments on that. This can't be a heist movie if they didn't steal anything. LOL. The casino not only gave them permission, he gave them the blueprints. This was an overcomplicated Uber Eats order. I'm going to disagree with you on multiple times. The second the insurance company paid off, that became the insurance company's property. First of all, not allowed in the area. It's not like he got permission. There was some sleazy deal with the military, the zombies. There's a zombie king in there. Kind of rules the roost in that area, who they had to sneak around.
Yes,
but that was good. That was good comedy. Love it. Thank you very much, DMG, as always, for bringing your smart remarks game. Jim, back to meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you wanted added? You commented on trust.
No, I'd be, so sort of taken, it's an adventure action movie. I don't know, I maybe changed my mind, but I don't think there was a really deep sense of meaning to this. What did you think?
You know what? It had, I think what it has, and it, again, for a Zack Snyder film, wow. I mean, there's a couple of overt shout-outs to hot topic, especially in the American political conscience. A couple of shout-outs to, the way refugees are being dealt with.
That's true, yeah.
The even a kind of a weird sort of refugees like ICE and Black Lives Matter, and even a bit of, although this may not have been top of his mind when he was writing the piece, when him and his collaborators were writing the piece, but also a bit of, hey, that's Guantanamo. So there's a bit of that, but I don't think that was really the heart of the piece as much as it's a shout out to it. It's like, hey, we're having this character. What's driving him? And what is the context they're operating in? And at least it was, it wasn't pro camps. It wasn't the authorities, especially the creeper. They're experimenting on troops. Like, if coming to your comment about trust, it certainly here is what are those government researchers up to in the military? When they're even, don't make me say it, Area 51. Like, there was like a bit of fun conspiracy theorizing, but not crazy QAnon or anything. Like a pretty classic sci-fi zombie horror kind of, like this is pretty well trod ground for this kind of The Stand. You know what? Where does the disease start? On a military base, and it goes into lockdown, but somebody gets out. That said, I think, and again, it's kind of surprising. Yeah, just sympathy. Like, there is some sympathy for these people stuck in a shitty situation. And they are brown. They're not, it's not, the pretty white girl we must save, And you look at Nora Arnazader, she's presented as foreign. Yeah, I could hear the French accent. wonder if they're, or I think she was even at times slipping in a little French. So she's foreign.
Oh yeah, she said "allez," like
yeah, yeah.
A-L-L-E-Z, yeah.
But she's got that southern olive skin, southern
Mediterranean,
Mediterranean kind of look to her. You've got the maybe not the Gita, character and everything. So that was kind of nice. But again, I don't think the heart of the piece. I think a lot of it was just about atonement with the father, a father trying to make right his sins to his daughter, and some of the others are, I don't think they were at the end of the rope. Actually, I thought the Vander Rohe character, like he's almost like a weird sort of hippie. But a guy who's like maybe kind of loves the action a bit.
Yeah.
Dieter was like, well, that'll be the culmination of my career. The only ones who may have not Theo Rossi, what was the kid's name? Raul. Here, just a second here.
The Hispanic kid with the blonde hair.
Yeah, Mikey Guzman.
Yes, yeah.
Him, Chambers, Samantha Wynn's character, Chambers. Yeah, they may have been, although also just young and kind of, nothing's going to happen to me. I know what I'm doing. Sure, we've had some close calls.
They're taking selfies and...
Yeah. It's like, I didn't see them as desperate, so I don't think he was exploring that. I think it had a lot more to do with Bautista and his daughter and that idea of, I'm going to take this money and I'm going to give it to her. You can help me and we'll get in and I'll get this and you can have a life. You can do whatever you want to do. Like he wanted his daughter free of that place, completely free of that place. And a bit of like he was on a redemption kind of track. And so I think that was probably the core theme, which is a pretty straightforward kind of movie theme, which I think maybe that's one of the things that can trip us up is like, especially for a Snyder film where it's like, there's nothing at the heart of this. It's only what's slapped on outside or it's hiding something very dark. And I'm like, this isn't actually that dark.
It's
so that was kind of the way I was looking at it.
And it's kind of interesting. One of the feats, and it's happened in other movies too, where you have as a main character somebody who's dour and not in the best place and kind of suffering and heading up what's ostensibly trying to be a fun movie. So you have this guy who is not doing very well. He this part of this is just sort of, I think, trying to break himself free from his existence, grilling burgers and working as a short order cook. Although he does have the skills and he does have the experience and that kind of thing. Well,
like he said, when he says, I don't like you, but I need this gig. I think his hemming and hawing at the beginning is literally, why would I do this? This guy's a douchebag, but the money, I could give this to my daughter. This could be my peace offering to make peace with my daughter. I think that's the...
I think you're right there. In terms of the trust aspect of it, and not that I think this is a big part of it, but I was just thinking...
But it is. Where's the honor amongst all these thieves?
And there's one part that one of the characters in particular, and I don't know if it's the only time, I'd have to sort of go back with a fine-tooth comb, but when Tig Notaro's character takes off with the helicopter and they reach the roof and the helicopter's gone, and then they say, she left without us, and then you hear whoomp, 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 as she's left, and she admits to leaving and changing her mind, saying, I guess I couldn't leave you guys on your own. And that was actually, one of the moments where the trust was regained, I guess, or flipped around. And that was kind of an interesting character beat there, I think.
And remember, like in the end, the only traitor characters amongst the core group, was Garrett Dillahunt, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is what I liked about the Lily, the Coyote character. She wants to make things right. She has this deeper kind of, I gotta make things right to people. This guy has promised me something, so I'll do this side deal. But even that, she wasn't like, she did not, it wasn't until it happened, it's like, oh, I might have screwed the group, and I didn't want to screw the group. She doesn't, in a typical kind of everyone's bastards, she would have gone up with Dillahunt, and then Dillahunt screws her later, right? Yeah. And she doesn't, and yeah, no one actually, even, I wasn't quite buying it, but I enjoyed her portrayal of it. Samantha Wynn, when she was playing the I don't like you and you're up to something, we're gonna have a conversation, which I also think is out of a different movie. How she gets screwed, and but
she's almost like a tough talking James Cameron character,
Yeah. I want to say I've seen this character in a movie, like right down to I'll just send you off, and where to make sure we understand he's a bastard. But she isn't, like, I don't trust anybody, especially you. And I'm like, she's playing like a member of the team. Yeah. I think, I think trust, I agree with you. It's a theme, but, and this is where I think he's being, for Zack Snyder, really clear on what's the good side and what's the bad side. It's in a way like we're almost getting fooled in its simplicity.
Yeah. Well, that's as soon as you said redemption, I'm like, well, of course. And then the Coyote, that's like 100% her motivation too. So that tracks, as the kids say. So for two of the major characters and two of the more interesting characters, that's sort of their main engine, right? So, but that Coyote, and I have to say, kind of an interesting
Here, one
character.
sec. I do want to make a quick comment regarding Ahmed here in his comment. It's like, it's a Zomcom. Now that, my friend, is a hot take.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, we better do it right. Hot take. Okay. Anyway, continue, Jim.
Send in a hot take.
I was like, yikes.
several continents away. In terms of the character, maybe how it's how the character of the Coyote Lily was written, but I also have to give credit to the actress too. She made her compelling, I think, and she was a very interesting. Did we show that scene earlier? Was that part of the package where she was explaining something and she had dots of blood on her face, and she was saying, "This is how it is." That was she had a real nice presence. I would hunt down other things that she's been in.
But they did, and this is where now we'll give it. I think Zack Snyder is quite sexist. And I think this is one of the things I was trying to say in my larger, ranking of his previous work. But he does not give women shit roles with nothing to do. The I can see why I could see why the women in Sucker Punch took the gig. Sure, they're dressed ridiculously and it's all kind of ridiculous, and if you look at it with any kind of just a little bit of a squint eye, you're like, ooh, ick. But they get to be compelling characters who have agency and they're characters, with characterization and everything. And I don't think I think the superhero stuff is where the women characters are let down, but that could also just have something to do as much with Zack Snyder as it is with just superhero movies, where they have a hard time dealing with any character that isn't a superhero, that isn't a, but that's a could be. I don't want to. Yeah. No, all the characters here, like there is something. He may believe in like a Greek kind of hierarchy or a Roman hierarchy, but he certainly isn't. I wouldn't say. I was talking about it with somebody else the other day. I think it was Richard and Katie, perhaps, in a Zoom dinner party, which was lovely, by the by. I wouldn't say Zack Snyder's a misogynist. I would say his films, the assumptions underlying a lot of his movies, except I think this one is pretty, problematic. Like the context is misogynist, the context he creates, but it's not like, I don't think he wakes up going, he's not an incel, he's not and I know that's weird, but I think that's kind of the heart of systemic sexism, right? It's the people operating it don't have to be sexist. They're behaving sexist. Their views are sexist because the context is, if that makes sense, Yeah. And yes, Eric, I that's exactly what I am saying is I wouldn't call him a misogynist. I think a lot of his films have problems, but anyway.
There's somebody named Pilot Productions is joining us.
Are you hearing the? Okay. Mr. Pillett. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Oh, Pillett. Yeah, of course. Sorry. Very small text. I apologize.
Great to see you here. Welcome to Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies. We are digging into the meaning of this flick, and glad you made it. Is the very Dr. Tongue. Oh my goodness, Dr. Tongue.
Would you like some water?
Yeah. Anyway, Mr. Pillett, welcome to the best chat on the internet. And somebody said the other day I should get that on a t-shirt. Folks, would you buy a t-shirt that talked about, the person wearing this is a member of the best chat on the internet? Might be worth actually doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. We're deep into 100 messages, DMG. All right. I think though, back to the meaning, Jim. Yeah, I think you're right. Trust is it, but it's a clear line.
Yeah.
He is not, and I think it works in this context for this kind of movie. He's picking a side. But I really think it's more about redemption and reconnection with people. And
I think you're right.
Not getting over, but kind of acknowledging past trauma and how that past trauma has damaged their relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Even Maria wants to, and she, a horrible death, absolutely. But she at least has a moment of, yes, he is into me. There could be something, that she finally tells him her feelings about him, about the Scott Ward character, kind of craps on him, but is still open. And I think that's a lot of there's a heart in this movie. Some actual joie de vivre. I even enjoyed the relationship that built between the Dieter and Vanderoe. Like by the end of it, and how they're getting into the whole, I get that, man, and
he got his fist bump.
Enjoying that.
That was is he going to get the fist bump? Because he was denied earlier.
Yes.
Then he earned it. So that's the the thing there. Yeah.
And even to the point where it's like he's such a kind of a character until he gets to that safe. Yeah. And you've heard enough of him that the switch makes sense.
Yeah.
You're like, no. He would turn into a total asshole once he got to...
Well, now he means business, right? He just exactly. I was going to say I rewatched just before we went on, I rewatched the trailer just to sort of, sometimes that helps to freshen up what you've seen if it's been 24 hours, say. But Maria, when she first comes on in the story, he approaches her for this gig. Is that she's all smiles, and so the admission later on does totally make sense. Like she's totally she's like almost too happy to see him. So, but it's I mean it's played subtly enough, but she's just sort of staring at him and smiling. So yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes. Are you referring to Pilot Productions, his comment about time loop?
Yes.
Or were you thinking of okay, go. Run with it. Because I was like, yes, that part, which was kind of weird. But
I was on Twitter today and somebody's done some close-ups of pieces of jewelry that the characters had on, and pieces of jewelry that the skeletons, where he starts talking about, I think it was the Vanderho character.
Vanderho is saying, but maybe we've already been here and we're just stuck in a loop. I don't even think we needed the zoom, like somebody to zoom in. It's like, oh wait, there's the key.
Yeah, and there was some collar thing that the Scott character had, and that kind of thing. So I don't know. Maybe this is Tenet 2. No, I'm just kidding. I always thought that Zack Snyder and Buddy were the same guy, but
another hot take. Sometimes it takes a while before we build up those hot takes. Listen, I do think though it was interesting. Maybe it was just part of a gag. Certainly possible, but you know what? It's not. We're not dealing with a rookie director here. It's he is purposeful, in his direction. I don't think you'd have that in there unless there was something. I'm not sure it's really part of a meaning thing. It almost like the hippie meaning part was just a great relationship establisher between Vanderho and Dieter, but it could be a later plot point. Something that comes up later. But who knows? Maybe we are in a time loop. I don't know. Like, a nuke went off, right? They love to use nukes as a way to, the fabric of time has been broken. I don't know. What does, you know what? Let's put that back. You know what? Let's put that back on Mr. Pillett. What do you, yes, the two white lights in the beginning, the rocket light. Remember when the trucks roll out of the base and it looked like in the reflection of something there was another rocket coming out? So the alien cyborg, I'm not sure. So Pillett says, and this is terrible, sir, I cannot remember your first name. Please forgive me. Pillett Production says, the two white lights in the beginning, the alien cyborg, the time loop, Snyder really hurt my brain. I you know what? We may have to actually wait to see if that plays out plot-wise. Do you though? And I'm putting this back on. I'm putting this back on him. Back on Pillett Productions. Do you think that that's part of the meaning in this film, or is that more of a plot device or plot setup, little plot seed planting for other productions that we know are either already produced or on the already coming? I'd be curious in hearing your thoughts on that. Although who knows? Have you already done a review of this? Like I've got like 7 or 8 reviews I've avoided by a lot of our friends, Jim, in the
me
scene.
too.
A lot of folks chiming in now, and I would love to see. So who knows? He might have discussed it, and if he has, I'll just go watch it. I'll watch your review, Pillett Productions, and we'll go from there. Okay.
I was avoiding the reviews too, just so you have your own take on it. But,
He says, I think that because of the jewelry that we see, there is an indication that it's all part of a time loop. You know what? There's a plot thing going there, unless they're just jerking us around. And I don't think that's Snyder's speed. What do you think, Jim?
Knowing that it's all part of an extended universe, I wouldn't be surprised. Are we talking about the seriousness of it, or if
Well,
it's
I just
actually
don't
something
see
to build
somebody
on?
putting that in for a laugh to kind of jerk around the audience.
Yeah.
That doesn't
That's true.
doesn't seem right. Okay, you know what,
Well,
Jim?
mind you, there was the boner character in WandaVision, so so who
Well, but I
knows?
think he comes in later. Okay, quick aside, the boner character has got to be the actual, like, I think we'll see more of him. It's not just for as a gag, because there's somebody in that town that was, what's his name? The FBI agent's client, under witness protection.
Okay.
And I bet you it was him. That's,
okay.
yeah, I am convinced of that.
Gotcha.
Okay. You know what? Before we get into whether or not we thought the director passed or failed, I think it's time, Jim, to maybe take a look at to talk about what we're going to be watching next week. What we want everyone to get ready for. What is their assignment for next week's show?
Their assignment is to read a book. It's we're taking a look at Blade Runner. And we've got a guest as well. So the original Blade Runner, one of the 17 cuts. We'll be diving deep into academe with this one as well. This is our
once a month we try to. We weren't able to do it, as we got ready for the Oscars, but once a month we try to pick something that Jim and I saw back in the day, usually from the 80s, sometimes 70s and 90s, but usually back in the 80s, our formative, our teen, our young to early 20s, early teens to early 20s years, and see if it holds up. So we're going to take, next week, we're going to take a look at Blade Runner. There's a version on Netflix. I think we can have this conversation, whichever version you decide to watch. The version on Netflix is the final cut. There's all like minor tweaks between each one. So definitely watch that. But yes, Jim did mention we are going to have a guest. It's actually, his name's Matt Flisfetter. He's a professor of communication and rhetoric here in Winnipeg at the University of Winnipeg. And the reason I reached out to him, why we wanted him on the show, is he wrote a book a few years ago called Postmodern Theory and Blade Runner. And as we were all getting ready to watch Blade Runner 2049, this book was released because he's no dummy. We actually went to the reading, got the book. I found him very fascinating at the local bookstore reading. And he's agreed to come on the show. So he's going to join us next week, and we're going to see how this holds up. But if you wanted to check out his book beforehand, Postmodern Theory may come up. You're more than welcome to. So I think that's that part. Oh, my goodness. Before we move forward, Jim,
are you reading the comments there?
Yes, I am. Well, Boner is a fake name, but it's a fine fake name.
You think?
Again, which cut of Blade Runner DMG? Whichever cut you can get a hold of. We'll be watching on Netflix. There's the final cut. I actually have the original theatrical cut too. I bought it off of Google Play Movies, which will soon be YouTube Movies. But I did You know what? The Upside Dan, I take everything nice I've ever said about you back. Although, who knows? Maybe we'll get next week. I shouldn't say that, Dan. Show up next week, and we may all end up at the end of the show going, oh, Dan was right. This movie sucks. Anyway, Philip Production says, are there bonus points if I send you a video of me crying in the rain?
Only if there's slow motion doves, beating their wings behind you or something.
Well, there you go, Mr. Pillett. If you can get those slow motion doves in there, or we're okay with like a, some sort of composite, some compositing, like if he has a clip of doves and he can put himself in there, eh?
Or am I thinking of a Prince video? I'm conflating the two now all of a sudden.
They happen in both. And his
Yes.
challenge is, he's accepted our challenge. Okay, everyone. Now we're going to move towards, we got two more things to talk about here. First of all, and for those of you who are new, we do talk about the director and whether or not we passed or failed. And I put it to you, Jim. Do you feel? Are you giving Zack Snyder a pass here? A pass?
Yeah, he's usually, there's a heaviness to his stuff that I sometimes don't love, but this one was fairly light. I mean, it was messy. But as I said, it's a good summertime movie. So yeah, I mean, it set out what it intended to accomplish, I think. So yeah, we'll give it to him.
Yeah, I'm gonna be even more fulsome. The Zack Snyder hater here is like, nope, he gets I don't want to give it a grade. Solid pass, absolutely. This was, and for all the reasons you mentioned, Jim, there is some fun in this. It was a fun movie. It was a fun summer movie. If I was, 30 plus years younger, I'd be like, wow, this is amazing. I may quote lines, or at least
we should do that. Teenage boys, former teenage boys review movies. And it was like a zombie baby. It was crazy. It's all right. Maybe that was an old man. I don't know. I guess we all have braces on or something. But,
big retainer. Some sort of headgear. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, Zack Snyder gets a solid pass from me on this one, which, considering the video I just put out, again, catch it. It's out now. There will be a link. There'll be a card up there. But yeah, I can definitely, as far as I'm concerned, he totally passes. All right, Jim, what do we do now? Let's talk about our final thoughts. What else do you want to say about this film? Or,
well, all of a sudden I want to review movies as a teenager in St. Vital in the 1980s. If I was impressed by Smokey and the Bear, this one gets even more stars.
Cannonball Run.
Cannonball. It jumps right over a bridge, and the bridge isn't even complete. Anyway, that was the height.
Dukes of Hazzard. I can't believe I watched that.
Peeling out on a dirt road. This sound effects and everything. Sound effects guys don't have fact checkers, evidently. But final thoughts. Like I said, this sort of, what does this remind me of? Not in spirit so much as that sort of, as I've mentioned ad nauseum, the summer movie, the Super 8, the various other kinds of movies that you would maybe catch, on summer vacation. And
you're
so
not holding it to a super high standard.
No, you're just looking for some
have fun,
entertainment, and considering the odd thing about it is that you're dealing with some pretty doomed seeming characters and a lot of death and stuff, and it's still fun. But I guess that's a sort of the tightrope walk that guys like Snyder do. Yeah, so it's enjoyable. It's a good summer movie, basically. Yeah, just to reiterate.
And you know what? If we were to compare it to the last zombie movie we did on the show, about the same time last year, which was Blood Quantum.
Yeah.
That for
Different tone.
gore was
Yeah.
so much. Like that was old school digging into the guts gore.
Yeah.
There, this is obvious digital headshot. If they decayed enough, we didn't feel like they were, a real person was dying. Kind of, we had that conversation about putting people behind armor and how it, changes our idea of who they, well, this is death, but I don't know who that person is.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure they are. So yeah, I think, fun summer movie. And thinking about the market, older teens who want a little more action and blood and guts, it perfect. And yes, the political stance he does take, it's like, I'm on side with that. I don't find that wrong.
Yeah.
What? And these characters, their moral conundrums, especially, I want to see a movie with Lily in it. She is having moments of, it's like, that's reasonable. You're surviving, you're doing what you can, but you're getting eaten up by what you're doing. Even though it's, I thought it was, So, Jim, I think I'm basically with you on this. You know what I haven't done, though, and I'm a little shocked I haven't done this yet. Jim, I think it's time we shamelessly beg. We have not begged our community for a like or a subscribe, nor have we asked them to
ring the zombie bell. Hey.
I wonder if it'd be like, ding, ding.
Or a zombie wouldn't know how it works, and they would hold the bell so it wouldn't make any noise.
Or drag it along the ground behind them. It's like a cow, a really lame cow.
Yeah.
Alrighty, everyone. I think it's time to wrap up another great show. Thank you all. You are again the best chat on the internet. We are freaking blessed.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's again one more quick reminder. That's next week. So next Sunday, 9:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. We're in coordinated or UTC, coordinated Universal Time -5. Love to see you here. Check out whichever cut of Blade Runner you can. You can also get the book by Matt Flisfetter. Rhymes with better, Postmodern Theory and Blade Runner. Get it out of your local library or go to bloomsbury.com and, pay them the fee, or Amazon or wherever the heck you want to get the book. And I think it is. I think, Mr. Pillett, although he still hasn't told us his first name, has he? Bastard.
Maybe that is his first name.
That could be. You're absolutely right, Jim. Listen, Mr. Pillett, first, thank you so much. Thank you so much for dropping by. The Upside Dan, thank you for coming by. DMG, always as fun as it is. You're like the Tig Notaro of our chat. We see you come up and it's like, it just gets a little more fun. And it's so great to see you here. Eric, so great to see you. So great that you and I are agreeing about a film. This is just awesome. Walt, Vlad65, Great seeing you here. Thanks so much. And, 1/3 of our Balmoral Street Research Irregulars. Who am I missing? Richard L. and Katie Fowler. Great to see you guys. Glad you made it. If I missed any of you in the chat, missed important questions, my bad. You know what? You guys are just too chatty. Here, let me put it on the victim.
Did we get Dan?
We did get the Upside Dan, yes. And one more. You know what? Ahmed, you're absolutely right. Yes, Jelly Duck. Great Great seeing you here. GeekyHiJynx, I know you're not here, but you'll probably hear about it. And again, yeah, go check out GeekyHiJynx. I will put a link. I'll tag him in my first comment, the pinned comment. And what else? Am I missing anybody else? I think got Ahmed, got Jelly Duck. I think we're good. Although, mind you, we had a wacko comments today, eh? Like,
yeah, it was good.
We really
good.
did well. You know what? Here, I'm just gonna get a couple more comments before we cue the outro. Army of the Dead, Winnipeg, Zombie Moose chasing Zombie Bob and Doug McKenzie.
Holy jeez, that's such a stereotype, eh? Oh, Brian's a hoser.
Dempsey Pillet, thank you very
Dempsey
much,
Pillet.
Dempsey. My bad, and it's okay. Well, now that I'm ashamed of myself, I'll remember. Take off, eh?
Take off.
All right, Eric. You know what? It was a great show because we got the best chat on the internet. Glad, but I'm really glad you're here. Glad you enjoyed it. And again, yeah, so glad that we agreed on a film. I suspect it won't happen often, but it makes it all the sweeter when we do, right, my friend? Okay, everybody, yeah, I think this is the yes, please, Upside Down, please tell him that we appreciated what he got started and we participated in the unique way we do, live. Alrighty, everyone, taking the chat off the screen and pulling the music down, saying goodbye.
All right, nice meeting you, Dempsey. Say hi to everyone else, and
yeah, thanks again. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you next week.
Go Jets, go!